Periscope. Remember Periscope? And today, I'm excited because we have a very excellent special guest filmmaker and host, Ron Purtee, among other things, among bee stings.
Yes. In fact, it says around here it's healing up a little bit, but you can see it right there. It's real
Whoa!
yeah, that
Ron,
was it
stay
was a
away
good
from those
time.
bees.
I just won't leave the house. That's what's
Do
keeping me
not.
in quarantine.
That's a good reason. That's actually an extra reason to not leave the house during quarantine. Welcome, Ron. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm very excited. We're going to have so
Thank you
many
for having
excellent
me.
guests on the show, and you are one of the flagship guests that we've got
Oh
on
boy,
the
you get
Aristotle Full
to
Throttle.
whoo. No pressure.
No
No
pressure.
pressure.
Now, just don't mess this up.
Okay, sure. Sure, no problem.
There's no way to mess this up, just FYI.
I don't know. I might find a way.
You, well, they're all just like life in Jurassic Park. Ron finds a
Yes.
way.
Ron finds a way to sit sexily like Jeff Goldblum. Um I almost was just like stayed on the couch to do this because my
Yes.
foot's been a hurting, and
Oh
I
no.
didn't though, which is good because
Yes.
it looks like I'm doing the whole like gentle art of seduction George Costanza thing, and I would
Yes,
not have
it's a
looked
very
good.
famous
So
painting.
yeah, oh, it's quite the painting. Yes.
So I'm so glad to have you on today. We wanted to talk about movie making and filmmaking and the joys of therein. What are some of the things that you love about movies, Ron?
I love the escapism and the way that you can just kind of leave everything that's going on. And I've had people. I remember I posted something recently. It's a meme about how it was from like 3 or 4 years ago. How reality is just horrible. So you kind of jump into fandom, and it's like, take me away, Doctor Who. I'm sure I'd have better luck with the Daleks right now. But and that might be over the head for a lot of people who don't watch comics.
I
I'm
caught
sorry.
part of it.
Okay, well, just hold on, and you're in for a ride. But and people are like, well, there's toxicity in fandom, and there is, but it's still an escape. I mean, I can put on um like say Attack of the Clones, and I can say, oh, you know what, this is bad, but it's still not as bad as that rotund fella in that house in Washington. It's not as bad. And you can
Right.
get away for a couple of hours. Like when you're watching
Yeah.
Blade Runner. Okay, I'm not a fan of Blade Runner. I fall asleep every time I watch it.
You're not a
Uh,
fan of Blade Runner.
no, I'm not. I know. I know.
Fair
I'm one
enough.
of those people who
Tatiana is here. She says hi, guys.
hello. I'm trying to
And
bring up the chat
Candyland
on my
says
phone.
how you doing as Wendy Williams.
Well, well, all right then. But no, it's an escape, and people are always like, "How can you make such a violent movie?" Because I made a film once. It wasn't written by me. I just directed it, where people were having a very intense conversation over Skype, much different than the one we're having.
Right.
Um, and they were cutting off body parts during the like to
Ooh.
prove their love to one another, and we showed it, and YouTube still hasn't taken down the video of the woman cutting her area with a razor blade.
Oh, good golly. Good
Yeah,
golly, that sounds like body horror. That
I've
is
I've I've grown out of my Cronenberg phase.
David Cronenberg, speaking of body horror, probably my favorite filmmaker, even though I'm not one who's like all for horror and gore for it. Like I'm not the biggest aficionado of horror films in general, but it's weird that I examine my favorite filmmakers and I'm like, yeah, David Cronenberg. But I think he uses body horror in a very specific and very impactful way. Not it's never gratuitous. Would you are you a fan of Cronenberg?
I am. I mean, I haven't seen too many of his films. I remember I saw The Fly, and the only I think I saw Scanners. The only other one I've seen, I remember I went to go see Friday the 13th Part 4 in the theaters. At like I think it was 2018 or something, and they were doing like hey, it's the anniversary, come watch the movie. I'm like, okay. Anytime I get to see Corey Feldman shave his head, and it was the night that Joe Bob Briggs came back on Shudder. If you remember Monster Vision back in the '90s and all that kind of on TNT. And he's on Shudder now. He was doing this big marathon, and he showed Rabid, the Cronenberg movie Rabid, which has
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember her name, the porn star in it, Marilyn Chambers,
Hmm.
and she was the initial in the movie. She's the initial person that gets messed up and causes. She's like patient zero. And I watched that movie. I'm like, it's not really all that body horror-ish, but it sure seems to kind of, when you rewatch Rabid now, it kind of encapsulates everything that's going on now,
Yeah.
which is weird. Same thing with Romero's The Crazies, which if you haven't seen it is on Tubi for free.
Ah, I do know the movie you're talking about, and I do definitely resonate with what you've been saying about how movies are an escape from the bizarre reality that we're in. It's almost like you can't make up the reality that we're in. I listen every day to the radio. They're like, and then the virus is infecting so many people, and I'm like, we are living in like 28 days later, or a George Romero, or some kind of crazy horror
Yeah,
movie. And
definitely.
movies themselves are a way to kind of step out of this world and enjoy a world that functions along different rules, maybe. And it's kind of an idealized place that we can go.
The only problem with escapism in a George Romero picture is the fact that you're just turning on what's going on essentially. And there, he said something at one point that you could take the zombies out of his films and put anything in like a hurricane or a famine or anything like that. It's all about how the humans react to the negative situation, and they never react in a positive way. They can never get
Right.
their stuff together to get things going. They're always,
Mm.
infighting because nobody, And then you look at other countries because you only see his perspective from it as a Pittsburghian. You never see how things are going in England or in India or anything like this because a lot of those countries they are willing to give up their civil liberties for just a minute just so we can
Right.
survive. And if every, that's I mean, look at South Korea. They got their first case the same day we did, and they're almost open again.
Yeah, it's kind of disheartening to think that showing a sign of respect for your fellow citizen and showing unity across by protecting each other by wearing a mask, something as simple as wearing a mask, is
Right.
not seen as strong and not seen as democratic, as like, we are a strong nation. Why don't we show our strength through
Right.
unity? And people, I think, are conflating this idea of freedom with an idea of being a jerk. Like,
Well, my
I am
favorite,
free to
yeah,
be a
my favorite
jerk.
thing is when people say, "Oh, well, they're taking my rights away, and they're forcing me to wear a mask." Okay, well, they
Yeah.
might be forcing you to wear a mask, but how are they controlling you by having you put a mask on? Really?
Yeah.
So I told
Yeah.
people, I said, you know what? The anti-maskers, I actually know some in my personal life, which is scary. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, why don't you just do this? You put the mask on, and it keeps you from getting scanned by the government, so they don't know where you
Right.
are, and it'll protect you from the 5G that you're so worried about.
Right. It's well. Then you're asking them to be, uh, like, have logical symmetry. Like, you're asking
Well,
them to be
that's not gonna work.
logical.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But no, I like watching. I remember the first movie I saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi. I don't remember much about
Oh.
it because I was young. I was very young. The first movie I remember most of it. I didn't get the jokes at the time, but was Ghostbusters.
Oh, yes, I do. I was very, very young at the time too, and I did see both of those. I think I saw the re-release of Return of the Jedi in 1985, and I do remember seeing Ghostbusters with my brothers. The funny thing about Ghostbusters, I remember they came home, they went and saw it, and then they took me to see it when they went again, and they just kept. I had no context or idea what they were saying, but they just kept saying, "He slimed me," and laughing all afternoon, and I was like, I have to see what they're talking about.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
our basement flooded after a big rainstorm, so I had to go down and relight the water heater. And I'm not a mechanical guy at all. Like even though it's not one of those ones that you light with a stick that has it just has a button you press to put it on.
right.
And I went down there and I
Too
relit
many
it. I'm like,
buttons.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I walk upstairs. I'm like, I kicked its ass, and and it's funny how film and plus when it comes to movies, if you hit the right one, it becomes part of the culture, it becomes part of the lexicon.
Yeah.
And then you got weirdos who kill themselves because they can't go to Pandora from Avatar. I mean,
Wait, it was
what is these are the same, but you know what? It's good that they kill themselves because they're the same people who probably wouldn't put masks on.
yes. These I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems to even out. I guess. I guess. What
I
part of
I don't
you
know.
mentioned Washington? Are you in Washington State
Oh no, I'm in
or
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Okay. What did
Yeah.
you grow up there?
Oh yeah, born and bred, and when I die, I'll be Wisconsin dead.
Oh well. Cheese and cheers to that.
Thank you. I actually live near something called the Mars Cheese Castle.
Tell me about this.
It's
Is
a
it from
building.
Mars?
I think it might be. I think David Bowie brought it with him when he landed.
He did. He
And
came back to Earth.
and it's this big. It's right off the interstate, and there's a big sign that says Mars Cheese Castle, and you go in there and you can find any kind of cheese. It's not made of cheese,
Oh,
which kind of sucks, but
right.
if you're coming home from the bar and you're on the interstate and you're like, I'm feeling peckish. I think I'm gonna go take a bite out of the cheese castle. But it's got any kind of cheese you could ever want. And what's funny is it's closer to Illinois than it is to like the rest of Wisconsin.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah.
How did you
I
find it?
also What's that?
Go ahead.
No,
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna no, I was gonna say I do find it funny because Wisconsin or Illinois has said that they put Wisconsin on the travel ban. But yet, I have
Ah,
friends that live a little bit south of me in Kenosha, and they are like, "Yeah, at the beach every day I see Illinois license plates." I'm like, "Well, look, we're trying everything we can to get Illinois people out of here. Okay, just go back to
we keep
Chicago."
trying. Okay. And cheers here. Greg is in the room. Mediocre Films. He
Hi,
says,
Greg.
"Yay, Ari and Ron." What's up, Greg? Join us tomorrow, everybody. Greg will be our guest on Aristotle Full Throttle at noon, like we do every day. Today, if you're just tuning in, we're hanging out with Ron Purtee. He is a filmmaker and host of his own. Tell us about your channel, Ron. You've
It's
got a channel
I
on
do
YouTube.
here on the Twitch and on the YouTube.
Neato.
I have a lot of interviews, and Greg has so kindly agreed to be a guest coming up, so that's fun on my show as well. He's a busy man. Quarantine's
He's
made him even busier.
very busy. Very
Yeah,
busy. This
so
he also sells he also sells used cars, and he's also on the board of education. He's continually he is now the new national security advisor. Now that the national security Greg is doing so many things, he wears so many hats, and most of them are cowboy hats.
they are. And I actually I think it was a few months ago, I was helping my mom with something, and I looked at her TV, and there was Greg in an insurance commercial. I was like,
Yeah,
"Holy
there.
crap!
See what
It's
I mean?
Greg Benson!" Yeah.
Yeah,
So. Uh,
that's what happens.
I'm pretty sure if you type Greg Benson's name into your DVR or your TiVo, your TV will explode.
He also he says, plus he does a lot of work with unwed mothers. Yes, Greg is
That's the only
constant.
work I do.
He's a humanitarian. You'll see him. You might even see him directing traffic in a few parts of town at once. It's kind of amazing what Greg
He's
has been up to.
Are you familiar with the X-Men?
I am familiar with the X-Men.
Yeah. So apparently, from what we're gathering here, Greg Benson is Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man.
He is multiple man. He is
There you
indeed.
go. See, there you go. That's what he is. That's
He's
what
the
he is.
hardest working man in show business.
And it's funny how small of a world this is because when he showed Cherry 2000 on Bad Movies Live, it rekindled my desire to remake that movie. Like I for
You
years I've wanted to get the rights to remake Cherry 2000.
Interesting. I vaguely remember that movie from the 80s, right?
Yeah, and
It's about a
with
robot
Melanie
lady.
Griffith. Yep, and with Melanie Griffith and Tim Thomerson from Trancers fame. I love Trancers.
Yes.
Don't ever touch those Trancers movies, you bastards who remake stuff. But no, and I even thought about who I would cast. I would cast oh God, now her name is completely
Melanie
from
Griffith's daughter,
Zombieland.
Dakota Johnson.
No, God, no. I want someone with
Oh.
talent. From Zombieland, the older. Um,
Kristen Stewart. Wait, no.
no,
Oh, yeah, yeah. If anybody knows this, drop
um,
it. I know who you're talking about. Her
yeah, but
name,
she would.
she was La La Land.
Yeah, okay. And she was
No.
also in Easy A.
Yeah, let's just name the movies she's in.
Yeah, so I would cast her in the Melanie Griffith character.
That interesting. That would work.
Because if you look
She's
at her
really
in the
good.
original Zombieland, she kind of is playing the same kind of role. She's like this badass, you know. And then in the Tim Thomerson role, the bad guy, I would cast Christopher Maloney.
Ah, Emma Stone is who we were
Emma
talking
Stone,
about.
yes, yes, Emma Stone.
Yeah,
My apologies to Emma Stone. But no, I
that's
think
an
Tim
interesting.
Thomerson would be, yeah, Chris Maloney from Law and Order SVU, because he's got comedic timing. If anybody who's seen Wet Hot American Summer knows that he can be
Oh, I
funny.
love that movie. It's a
Yeah,
ridiculous
so
film, and I love it.
yeah, and then you can pretty much get any kind of Michael Cera, Jesse Eisenberg clone to play the guy. It wouldn't matter. And then to play Cherry, I would get Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
That's
See,
a
so there you
really
go.
interesting. Speaking
I'm
of
waiting for my
80s
check,
movies,
Hollywood.
of 80s obscure 80s movies, this Sunday, tune
Oh
into
yes,
Mediocre Films. Greg and I will be watching Beastmaster 2
cannot
because
wait.
there was a Beastmaster. I was excited as a kid when I first saw the when I've seen Beastmaster several times on commercial television, so you had to wait like 5 to 10 minutes every 5 to 10 minutes through commercials. And
It's like here's Mark Singer in a speedo, and here's Greg Benson selling a car.
exactly perfect. Yeah, and there's a sequel to Beastmaster, which I mean, there's been a sequel to Beastmaster for like
There was
30
a
years,
TV
and I
show,
never
I
got
think,
around to
too.
it. I bet it was. It seems like probably was it in the 90s. There's a Beastmaster TV
I think
show.
so because that's when they were doing a lot of like, hey, Beastmaster was fun. Let's do a TV show. Hey, remember The Crow? Let's do a TV show. You know, things
Yeah,
that, yeah. But I loved the original Beastmaster. My grandparents, and this is another reason why I love movies, is they would get do the long play on the VHS tapes, and they would tape
yeah,
movies from
yes. Six
HBO for
hours.
me. Yes, they would tape movies from HBO for me. And I remember I wore out my Indiana Jones tape. And I would always skip past Temple of Doom. I couldn't do Temple of Doom. There's just something about that movie that bugs me. I don't know.
I was just talking about that. How I would always I'm like Temple of Doom. I don't know. It never sat right with me.
But and then if I was to rank all the Indiana Jones movies, it would go Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then Temple of Doom because there hasn't been a fourth movie.
Yeah, there you. That was absolutely correct. I'm glad that you omitted that fourth
Yes.
movie
There you go.
entirely.
But the thing about that fourth movie though is you can't. You want to hate Shia LaBeouf, but he's not bad in the movie.
Yeah,
The story is garbage.
that's a really great topic of a show too. Maybe we should talk about actors, guys and gals actors that you don't like, but they're not that bad. Like, Kristen Stewart is actually she's gotten pretty good, and I'm just kind of like, but I don't know. I don't really.
She
I
wasn't good
I
in the
feel like she
Twilight
shouldn't
movies.
be.
No, she shouldn't be. But she wasn't good in the Twilight movies. But then neither was Robert Pattinson, and he's an amazing actor. If you've seen
Yeah,
Good Time or I can't wait to see him as
Dynamite,
Batman.
Good Times. Of course, I've seen Good Times.
Good Times is great. No, I'm talking about the movie.
Oh,
Jeez, yes.
fair
I,
enough.
but also I would like to wish a happy birthday to one of my heroes who turned 98 yesterday, Mr. Norman Lear.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Creator of the Jeffersons and All in the Family
And Good Times.
and Good Times.
And he had a hand in
Indeed.
Sanford and Son.
Loved that show.
Oh, anytime any of those shows is on, I love watching them. I don't like when Good Times gets a little weird towards the end. I think it gets a
Yeah.
little preachy. But the beginning, when the dad's still alive, when John Amos didn't have to leave to go be in Beastmaster, uh, which is you're watching Good
Nice
Times, and like
tie-in.
yeah, you're watching Good Times. You're like, I really don't want to see John Amos in a speedo, and then you put on Beastmaster, and you're like, look what I got that I didn't want.
He's like, too late. I'm
Here
already
you
wearing
go.
the Speedo.
I'm
They've
all
already
good to
shot it.
go.
It's in the can.
Now look at my can.
Exactly.
But I always felt, like I said, I think I said this before, but I always felt bad for Rip Torn having to be the bad guy in Beastmaster.
Hmm.
It's just like this is not one of these things is not like the other. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
but he's really, I've never seen the Larry Sanders Show. I have a DVD with like the best of moments because I want to get into it.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling it's right up my alley. But I think his best role is in an Albert Brooks film called Defending Your Life. Have you ever
That's a
heard of
great
this
movie.
one? Oh,
That's one of the best screenplays for a movie, too.
I that's actually like there's like a list of 5 movies that made me want to make movies, and that was one of them. That
Yeah.
and the original Dawn of the Dead. I mean, how does that go in hand? It doesn't make any sense. But
That's
I just
fair
wanted
enough.
to throw pies at people. I guess I don't know. But what was another one? And Superman the movie.
Superman the movie. I'm glad
Yes,
that
with
you
Chris
entitled.
Reeve.
I'm a stickler for referring to Superman the movie because I'm always like it's Superman the movie, just like Star Trek the motion picture.
Yes, I'm one of those people who is a huge apologist for Part 3 with Richard Pryor and Robert. Was it Robert Vaughn? I think was in it. Is that who it was? I forget. I can confuse
it was
Robert Vaughn and Jack Palance all
Superman
the time.
3, yes.
Yes, and I love
enjoyed
that
that.
movie. It's so, and the sequence when he's fighting himself in the dump is amazing.
It's an amazing
For its
sequence,
time,
and he gets
It is.
Superman turns bad. He's got his suit is soiled. He's
He's got a
flicking peanuts
5 o'clock
into
shadow.
whiskey bottles because he's Superman. It has a lot of redeeming factors in that movie.
It does. Part 4, I mean, the message is good, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's Nuclear Man. I mean, who cares about Nuclear Man?
I saw part 4. I watched part 4 about 3 times in one day. I was home from school sick, and I was watching the VHS, and I watched it first thing in the morning when I was getting up. I was laying on the couch all sick, and I'm like, "This is bad. This is a bad movie." I'm very young. And then,
But let me watch it a couple more times.
let me watch it again. Let me start it over from the beginning. It never got better. It never got better.
It never does. The message is great. And what he says when he's like, "Look, I can't," I'm paraphrasing here, but when he says, "Look, if you guys want peace, you got to bring it about yourself. I can't do it for you," which is a very valid thing to say. And I'm a big Superman fan, like the comics and stuff. I have a stack of Action Comics and Superman that I have to get through that I didn't want to read during the lockdown when the comic shop wasn't open because I didn't want to run out and then I'd be like, "Oh my God, what am I gonna read?" But the boys there's a new boys title out, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know if you watched the Amazon show.
I've got to start the Amazon show. I know that season 2 out.
Season 2 comes out in September. It is a bloodbath. So just a heads up. It's very, very bloody.
I do get queasy.
I'll just say this. I won't say. Well, no, this is kind of a spoiler, but I'll just. There's one character that constantly gets covered in blood head to toe, and and it's just he doesn't want it. It just kind of happens to him, his character. Well, Simon Pegg was originally supposed to be in the TV show when they were going to do it back in the day, but because one of the characters in the comic looks exactly like him, like to the hairline, and now he's too old to do it, so he's playing that character's dad. So you get to see you get to hear Simon Pegg with an American accent.
That's really funny. How good is his American accent? I mean, he's pretty good at the Scottish accent.
He's okay, I guess. I mean, But another cool thing is they announced that Simon Pegg and Jamie Lee Curtis are going to be in this season of Archer.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She was amazing in Knives Out.
Oh,
she was amazing
movie?
in Knives Out.
Yeah, they actually when you were talking to I forget his name, Travis, about board games.
Travis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw my comment in the chat. It was they turned Clue and not Clue but chess into a movie, and it's called Knives Out. I mean, think about it.
Interesting.
That is a chess game.
That is very much a chess game. Chess game. I was thinking of they're going to make a sequel to
and it's just going to be about the detective. I forget his name, but yeah,
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. I saw some suggestions on how they were to make the sequel. Today, by the way, if you're just tuning in and joining us, we're here with our friend Ron Purtee. He's a throttler, a newly found throttler. We're talking about movie making, specifically today, and the general love for cinema. And we do this every day at noon, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's called Aristotle Full Throttle. You can find us on all the platforms. Tomorrow, our guest will be Greg Benson from Mediocre Films. And Condolan says on social...
Greg Benson, man.
Big fan. Very funny man. Great show. We're getting bombed by a bot in our
in the Twitch.
Given what we know about how people react to this pandemic, zombie movies will be unrealistic now if you don't have people running toward the zombies.
Pretty much.
That is very true. Yeah, I saw a meme recently where there was it said about the bubonic plague. Hey guys, stay away from rats and stuff. And then there was a lady licking a rat, and then another person licking a rat. It was just, if this is how people reacted during the bubonic plague, that's.
It sounds like something from The Simpsons, like they would have happened on The Simpsons, where people are just licking rats because it's fun.
It's exactly where we're at with the not mask wearing. It's weird that it's politicized. It shouldn't be. We should all be courteous.
At what point does it need to be politicized? I don't get it. There's nothing politicky about it. And I'm making up words as I go along now.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't question somebody for wearing a mask around in the nursery of a hospital with babies or something like that, because we wouldn't even in the surgery room. You're wearing a mask. Nobody would question that. Greg asks, "Want to be famous? Buy more followers." Thank you, Greg.
Only
Greg has now become
$74,000? That's a steal.
It's totally a steal. Greg has now become a bot. Oh no, he has been zombified. No results guaranteed.
Yeah. Nice.
Actually, guaranteed no results, I think is what should be the actual phrase.
No. This business card is wrong. It should say no, money down. That's another thing that's hilarious. These Simpsons quotes have become part of the vernacular at this point. When you see somebody doing something weird on the sidewalk, they're like, "Sidewalks for regular walking, not for crazy walking." Just stupid things like that. And as I'm watching myself in the chat right now, I need to stop being so close to the damn camera because I am not a pretty man.
You are a gorgeous man. What are you talking about? Cheers.
I always thought that if I was whatever prostitute myself, I'd charge by the pound.
So you do it in the UK.
Yeah, and it would maybe have to be one time. Comisty moo.
Comisty moo.
I thought we had something going that other night when we were talking about buying followers together by the moonlight.
That is the most romantic thing you can say to someone. Would you like to buy some more? Would you like to be famous? It's funny. I just because I have a tweet deck and it's popping up over your face every once in a while on the Skype, and I just noticed that John Cleese is still hawking his one-man show that's going to be he's performing live, which I'm definitely have to go to and watch. It's going to be hilarious. It's John Cleese. He's a living legend.
And that reminds me, I'm actually writing a one-man show that I'm filming in my house to put up. Yeah, so it's called "I'm Not My Fault."
I'm Not My Fault. Now give us a brief synopsis. Give us
it's going to be a bunch of characters that I do. I do an old woman character named Helen, where I literally put on my mom's house coat and a wig, and I wait until I have.
And you film this.
And I do. Yeah, there's videos on YouTube. I wait till I have a bunch of growth on the face though, so it looks even worse. But she's going to be a part of it. I have a character whose name is Maurice Lester Johnson. Mm-hmm. I'll let you in, and he goes by Mo. So just go ahead and put that together real quick. I'll give you a second. Mo Lester Johnson.
More or less.
Mo Lester Johnson.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and but him, I have to I'm having allergy problems right now, so I have to wait because I comb my hair completely to the other side of my head. And I have to talk in a very weird voice, and it hurts my throat. And I'm you know how when your allergies kick in, you can just feel stuff dripping in the back of your throat, and it's like, oh, this is horrible. I'm gonna die. And that's what I'm going through right now. So I got to wait for that. But then there's going to be stories about my life which are ridiculous, like how I won a contest called Milwaukee's Most Pathetic Man, but the joke's on them. I don't even live in Milwaukee, and I get into that. And I loved doing stand up, and the only problem is by day I take care of my disabled mom, and that's
Gotcha.
my job. And so it's hard to go out and do stand up unless it's an open mic or whatever. And so I kind of took to just doing funny sketches on YouTube and then making movies and doing the show and stuff. So when the Ron Purtee show comes back August 6th, it's going to be here on Twitch. But there's also going to be a separate show where I do interviews with people. You know how Conan does his show, and then he used to have that serious jibba jabba that he'd put on YouTube, like where he talked to Martin Short, Mel Brooks, and things like that. That's kind of what I'm doing. Because the show I'm going to be doing on Thursday nights is very I can't think of the word. Not normal. I'll put it that way.
It's very Purtee.
Yes, it
You
is.
got a Purtee show there, right?
I sure do. But I pride myself in my interviews. I'm really good at it, and I'm not just tooting my own horn, toot toot. But so
that was more like a semi.
Yeah, a little bit. But I want to separate the two, so I'm gonna be, and I have some great guests coming up on that too. Just a little. I'm gonna say this real quiet. Shh! Don't say anything, anybody. But
yeah, don't nobody say this.
Yeah, Trace and Frank from MST3K are coming on to promote their show coming up on August 18th.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's very exciting.
And that's the weird thing about doing shows like this is you start meeting people and you become friends with them. And I remember I was going to do a short faux documentary called R.I.P. Ron Purtee. And it was just going to be people talking about how I was and when I died and everything like that. And I was going to host it in an old man wig, like a, like Jack Palance hosting, was it Ripley's or whatever? And and then I couldn't get people to participate, but Trace did one. And I just recently released it on YouTube because I'm not going to get the film done. And he's talking about how great of a guy I was. And then the minute he finds out that I didn't leave him anything in my will, fuck that guy, and it's
what a eulogy.
It's a silly concept, but when Trace delivers it, it's just so good. And I'll send you the link later. If anybody can I post it in the Discord?
Yes, absolutely.
I will post it
away.
Yeah.
Ron, you'll just remember, you will always be my number one guy.
I never knew what he said when I saw that movie, and I saw it in the theaters like 4 times. And then now I tend to watch movies with.
Of course,
subtitles.
we're referring to Jack Palance in Batman 1989.
He also Joker also did it too. At the end.
Oh yes, the Joker was mimicking Jack's character from earlier too. Yeah.
So, but now I watch movies with the subtitles on just so I know what's going on, so I can catch everything. I also watch a lot of Criterion stuff, so the subtitles are already on for Swedish or whatever the hell Bergman movie I'm watching. Boy, those Bergman
whatever
movies,
Max von Sydow role.
Yeah, those Bergman movies are super happy. You ever want to see a marriage fall apart during war? I mean, that's that rom comedy.
I'm kind of in the mood to be really sad. Let's watch it.
That would definitely be the right thing to watch then. That or Cries and Whispers or The Seventh Seal or the Virgin Spring, which is the Virgin Spring is actually the premise for Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of horror movies, the first film that I saw that wasn't in the theater, that influenced me. I should preface this because I saw movies. My dad had smoked too much pot or something, and because he does, and he passed out in his chair watching golf. And at the time, I didn't care about golf.
That's weird. I could do that. I could pass out in my chair watching golf without the use of pot.
I usually pass out in my chair watching Blade Runner, but that we've already established that. And then I get a lot of crap from horror fans by saying I can't sit through Suspiria either because it's just so boring.
The new one?
No, I haven't seen the new one yet. I'm scared to see the new one.
The new one has retained that quality.
Oh, goody!
I'll tell you that. Yeah.
So it's like taking.
I watched at least 17 hours of it the other week, Still halfway through it.
Okay, all right, good to know. But no, I get a lot of crap from horror fans who are just like, you're not really a horror fan if you don't like Dario Argento. It's like, well, okay, the guy gets Udo Kier, who is
Oh,
German, okay,
yes.
and the movie takes place in Germany, and he dubs over an American accent over Udo Kier's German accent.
You know, I have a connection to Udo Kier, which would be phenomenal if there's the director I know. His name is also Ron, and he is friends with Udo, and that would be
Udo
an
Kier seems
amazing.
like a really nice guy.
He's always got many photos of them out together, and it's quite phenomenal. I'm like, that's Udo Kier, and you're best friends with him. It's pretty hilarious.
I do like
But
watching
yeah,
My Private Item and seeing him dance around with a lamp. Udo Kier.
he's
When he's trying to
he's
when he's
quite
trying to seduce Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix.
he's quite the talented guy. He only looks very intense. I think he's just got a very intense look. I think it's the piercing eyes. But Tatiana says, I loved Suspiria, both of them, but I love horror. So, I did like Suspiria. I was watching the new one with our favorite Tilda Swinton, and it's good. I think I have to watch it while like maybe running on a treadmill so I could stay awake.
Probably, yeah. Well, the film. Here's the funny situation about golf and pot. So my dad's passed up in his recliner, and he's got that should be my autobiography, Golf and Pot. And there's a VHS tape in the machine from the video store, but the label is off, kind of, so you can't really see what movie it is because people rent them and they just whatever. So I pushed the tape in, and for those that remember, the joy of VCRs, they pick up right where they left off.
Yes.
So that was beautiful. I love that. So I put the VHS tape in, and if this had been a porno, we'd be having a completely different conversation. But it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was the sequence where Leatherface puts Pam on the hook. That's the first thing I see. I have no context, no build-up, and he's just like, woof, on the hook. And I'm just mesmerized by what I'm watching. And it didn't freak me out. And the funny thing is my new co-host, Vic, to his kids, I'm Uncle Ron because I've known him since the Dreamcast came out. That's a good way of putting it.
Way to reference a failed Sega platform.
Yeah, there's actually one in the other room of this house right now, but
is it Sega CD?
No, it's Sega. It's a Dreamcast. And I worked at Funko Land the day that the Dreamcast came out. I worked at launch day, and it was ridiculous. It was crazy, the lines in that thing. And all the regret as they're leaving. But so his kids call me Uncle Ron, and I was babysitting one night because he's up playing. He's in a dart league, and this is years ago because the oldest is like almost 18 now, and he was say 5 at the time. And we're flipping through TV, and when broadcast television was a thing, and we're watching professional wrestling, and I'm like, okay, I love some wrestling. I don't hide it.
Some wrestling.
Yeah, and MVP was on. Are you familiar with MVP, or are you not up on the newer people?
I kind of dropped off in the mid '90s. So
okay, then you know him then. Yeah, his wrestling attire now, since he came back, has been like a Black Panther-esque suit, which is cool. But back then, he looked like a Power Ranger. And the kids didn't know much of anything at this point. So we're watching wrestling, and I'm flipping through the guide, and I see Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on Fuse. Remember Fuse? And
I do remember Fuse, yeah.
Yes. So I put it on, and it's the exact same
Canadian.
scene. Yep, I love Canadians. So I put it on, and it's the original. I thought maybe it'd be the remake, which I can't stand. And it's the same exact scene. Leatherface putting her on the hook. And they're sitting next to me, and the young one is just like, this had the same reaction I did, was just like, wow, what is this? And the older one's like, Uncle Ron, he's tugging on my shirt. He's like, can you put Power Ranger back on? And I'm like, I thought it was so funny. And to this day, I'm not allowed to show those kids movies. But so that was the first thing that made me kind of like, that was my first horror experience, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That was the jumping off point for Ron Purtee, and
exactly.
I would like to make movies that instill It's
fear
still a
people.
deep emotion, fear, and
Yeah.
evoke emotion.
Well, I had
Yeah.
Joe Bob Briggs on my show earlier, a couple months ago, before the new season of Last Drive-In started, and he said that that's the point in the theater when people would get up and walk out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre when he puts her on the
Yes.
hook. Because you don't see, and that's the thing is everybody's freaking out. You don't see any blood, you don't see any penetration from the hook, and
Mhm.
if you go back and you
It's
watch
just the
Texas
idea.
Chainsaw, yeah, but you go back and you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's little to no blood in that movie.
That was kind of bringing it back to David Cronenberg. There's very relatively small amounts of violence in his films if you look at the total running time versus like maybe a minute and a half of actual violence in some of his
Right.
films, which is it's just so impactful in those moments. So Ange just joined us. Hello, Angie. And if you're just joining us, we're here with Ron Purtee on Aristotle Full Throttle. We do the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. AristotleFullThrottle.com. We're talking about movies and our love for cinema and what got you started. So you went from Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Ghostbusters
Oh no, it
to
was the other
your
way around.
favorite movie, Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, no, it was the other way around. I saw the first movie I saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi, then Ghostbusters the
Yeah.
next year, and then I saw, because I was 5 when I saw Ghostbusters, I was 7 when I saw Chainsaw, and what's funny is if you watch Chainsaw, there's more violence in Monty Python and the Holy Grail than there is
Yes.
in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The
Also,
scene with the knight.
if Greg is still here, did Katie watch Holy Grail yet?
I think Greg is actually doing some air traffic control,
Oh, that
probably.
would explain.
Also,
So he's taking a nap.
he's
You mean? So he's taking
he's
a nap. You mean?
flying a jet. Exactly.
Yeah, that was a fun that was a fun encounter on Bad Movies Live when he found out that Katie Von Til hadn't seen Holy Grail.
Oh, good golly. Yeah, Holy
Yeah,
Grail is the Holy Grail of comedy. Of
yeah.
comedy movies.
It's my favorite Python movie. But if I'm going to pick a second favorite, it's not Life of Brian.
It's not your second favorite, so it's going to be The Meaning of Life.
Yes. And
Interesting.
I kind of don't like the beginning part with the like where you can obviously tell it's a big Terry Gilliam, like, hey, look, I'm doing this before Time Bandits. This is what you're in for 2 hours when this comes out.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that, but a lot of the sequences in Meaning of Life seem are like a lot to me way funnier. Like Mr. Creosote, when Death shows up, um,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Shut the hell up, you pompous Americans," and when they're walking out, and she's like, "Well, I didn't have the fish." Like, shh, and then you get to heaven, and it's just a giant floor show, and
It's
there's
amazing.
just things like that. Yeah,
I say probably at least once a week. I say I can't eat another bite.
that is, and Cleese's reaction, like to running over the planter because he knew what was coming. But then that's funny. But then what you get is like the secondary joke afterwards when the late Terry Jones is cleaning up the mess, and Cleese is sitting there with his jacket off and he's smoking, and Terry Jones just goes into this big diatribe about the Jews, and he takes the bucket
Yes.
full of dead creosote and just dumps it over his head, because he sees the camera, and it's it's just so funny to me. I don't know why.
It's absurdism. It's my favorite type. In the Monty Python group, they're so highly intelligent, yet their comedy is it's highly intelligent wrapped in super stupid, and that's like my favorite type of comedy. Greg says Katie said she'll watch uh, the Meaning of Life after Wednesday. So
Oh, you mean Holy
I
Grail?
hope that yeah, or
Because
the Holy Grail.
she
Oh, that's right.
really shouldn't watch Meaning of Life before Holy Grail. That would be a bad move.
No, because you might be put off to
Yeah,
watching further.
you have to get kind of like, you have to understand what you're getting into before you hit Meaning of Life, because that's just,
In,
yeah.
indeed.
And I was especially hit hard by Terry Jones passing, because that's how my grandfather went. And
Yeah, it's
he's
very,
one of
very sad.
he's one of my I'm trying to count in my head now. He's one of my. There's my Graham. I want to do this joke right, and the build up to it's going to be the payoff is going to be way worse than the build up. Graham, John, Terry, Eric. Yeah, so there's 5 of them. Okay, well, Terry Jones is one of my my favorite my 5 favorite pythons.
You're one of your top 5 favorite pythons.
Yes, my top 5.
I always find that funny when people girl like hugging her friend and she's like, one of the top 5 people in my life, and I was like, you know that guy's number 5,
right? Exactly. Exactly. You have to quantify it by saying it. There's 4 other people. Yeah.
There's 4 ahead of him. There are 4. Why would you say one of the top 5? You're just telling him he's not
horrible.
Number 1 through 4.
You're not important, pal, buddy.
Oh, so when did you start making your own movies? Like
July 10th, 2010. And
now what? Now tell us about that experience. Tell us about.
It was a pain in the ass, to be honest, because I'd never done it before, and
it's herding cats.
It is. It really is. And there was a sequence where there was a bunch of zombies, because let's be honest, it's the easiest way to start making movies. And that was before I really got into George Romero. But
you're like, making movies is already herding cats. Let's get a bunch of zombies.
Yes.
Let's add zombies to the mix.
Everybody wanted to know how to walk. And I'm like, just do what you want. Because if you do what I tell you to do, every zombie's going to look alike. And not every zombie is alike. And so the only person I showed it because we were able to get a little kid to be a zombie, and I had to teach him because he had never seen a zombie film. So, and then a woman I was seeing at the time came to be a zombie, and she stopped seeing me after that. But that I wonder, I don't know. But we shot it in my dad's garage, and he was like, "Just clean up all the blood afterwards." I'm like, "Okay." So I. The funny thing is,
get rid of the evidence.
Yeah, the thing that's amazing about that is we cleaned up all the fake blood, but there was real blood from the shoot because the DP was putting a tarp up so we'd block off everything in the garage. And when he did it, he kind of like got his hand caught with a nail with a hammer, and so he bled out. And there's blood, and to this day, there's probably still blood in the garage. And he's like, "Oh, what's this fake blood?" Yep, it's fake. Yep. Sure is. Sorry, we couldn't get it up. Pop.
You were going for realism.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is when we shot the sequel, we shot it at his new house that he has with his 3rd wife. Because my dad's a ladies' man.
His new house and his new wife.
And he can't commit. But so we shot it there, and again we forgot to clean off some blood because there's a sequence where there's blood on the sliding glass doors that lead into the backyard. And there's a big bloody handprint on there, and we completely forgot to clean it off. So when my stepmother, you know what, when his new wife, we'll just call her that, comes down and opens the blinds to let the sun in, she's greeted by a giant bloody handprint, and she freaks out and takes a tumble over the couch. And
needless to say, your dad has a 4th wife.
No, he's still with whatever her name is, but the phone call I got from that was something else. But and then we shot something else in the front yard of his old house with a killer clown before killer clowns were cool. I'm a hipster. I eat my pizza. I eat my pizza backwards so I can eat it before it's cool. And we actually had to call the police department and tell them what we were doing because at one point in the movie the clown chops up a woman in the front yard. Yeah. And they brought a cop out to sit and watch, and that way, if anybody called in, they could say, "No, we know this is nothing. Don't worry about it." And one of the funny sequences in that movie is when he's hacking her up. He forgot to take the horn out of his pocket, so every time he brings the axe down, it goes honk, 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 and it is so funny. I always tell people that it was intentional, but it was so not intentional. That one. Weird. Yeah, it's amazing. It's the darkest comedy ever. But
I would never. That is an amazing an amazing consequence of trying to murder a clown. It's gonna be hilarious every time, I suppose.
Well, yeah. Well, he was the one doing the murdering, so it's even worse. But I'll post that in the Discord later too. There, I actually have that sequence isolated where it's
clown.
just where the clown's murdering her, and you hear honk honk every time he brings the axe down. And yeah, so but I took a break for a while and I did the show, and that went really well. I recently, like last summer, I did my 200th episode live at a podcast festival. Um, and then I kept,
Congratulations.
thank you. And it's and if you look at everything I've done show wise, because I did shows before I did movies. This is my 16th year of doing like talk shows and stuff. So
wow,
because I used to. Do you remember Stickam?
Yes, I do.
I was on Stickam
early
in the
inception.
morning. Yes, I was on in the mornings from like 8 till 11 my time. So you'd still be sleeping. But because let's be honest, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and who's up at 6 o'clock in the morning? Unless you really want to catch Howard. Unless you really want to catch Howard Stern. But I would do that for Monday through Friday, and I would get like 10 to 15,000 people watching because they put me on the front page and stuff, and that was super
awesome.
cool. I was at a website called Now Live. I don't know if you know that one.
I do remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
was on
that. Was it's kind of like
that was more just audio than it was like streaming video, but
yeah, because YouTube was about 2005, and
this is
then
yeah. So I did shows there, and then I left Stickam after the whole John Hawk thing. Do you remember that, where the guy raped a woman on camera and Stickam did nothing about it?
I do remember that actually. Yeah,
so me and a bunch of other big like high profile ones that were on there, we left. We're not. If you're not going to do anything, why should we, do anything for you? And then I started doing public access. And then I started doing podcasting. So I've been hosting a show since like 2004 or 2003. So it's like about 16 years. So
you're a veteran at this. And we can find you at Real Ron Purtee on all those platforms.
That's right.
On YouTube too.
It's Real Ron Purtee on YouTube as well. Awesome. And then I'm going to be posting old episodes because this is a funny story, and it's better to watch it. It's funny to hear it, but it's even better to watch it. And I thought I lost the footage, but I'm interviewing this band, and they were just so drunk from the show. They were just hammered because they've had been day drinking. Yeah, and they're not a good band. I'll be honest. Yeah, right.
But they're good drinkers.
They're good. Oh, they're fantastic drinkers. And this is right before I quit drinking, so there you can see a bottle of Jack Daniels in my hand. But I come to find out through the course of the night that the guitar player had been drinking all day on his boat, and when he got to the show, he forgot to bring his guitar. It's like, how do you forget the one thing you're supposed to bring?
That's your one job, guitar player.
It's your one job. And he looked like, if you cut off of wrestling in the mid '90s, you remember Kurgan, from the Oddities?
Yes.
He looked like him. All right, but he was a lot shorter. But he had the same haircut and facial hair and everything. And we're sitting there and we're doing the interview, and he's like, "Yeah, we're just having a good time, and if it escalates, that'd be great." And you can tell he's like ready to fall over. He's so drunk. And I look at him, and it's on camera, and I say, "But for it to escalate, wouldn't you have to bring your guitar to the shows?" And the singer lost it, and he starts laughing.
Stomp and clap.
Yeah, pretty much like. And that was really funny. And then so I'm gonna be posting those periodically coming up with new intros because it's really pixelated from the old mini DV tapes.
Yes,
those are. Oof.
We're gonna have to restore them like they did with Star Wars. We must restore Ron Purtee.
People want to see me 80 pounds heavier in HD. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I actually that was right before I quit drinking because I was in the throes of alcoholism. So that was fun.
I hear you. I mean, there's lots of good beers in Wisconsin. So
I was a Jack Daniels guy. I would drink 2 of the bottles like this big. I drink 2 a day. And
2 a day.
I'm a big guy. Remember, it takes a lot.
Well, that is a lot of alcohol.
I went to this woman's house. We were gonna just watch a movie, and I went through almost an entire case of Miller Lite, and it barely gave me a buzz. That's when I was like in the middle of everything, and she had
Right.
2 margaritas, and she was hammered. I'm like, I remember
Yeah.
those days.
Fair enough.
Now I'm addicted to Diet Dr Pepper and cream soda. This is not a sponsor.
Ooh. I've always had an affinity for cream soda. Sometimes, except one time I got sick that you get for the flavor of cream soda. But I am glad that you kicked that. And holy crap, good for you for quitting, says Greg. Cheers to you in your
Thank you.
recovery and your
I am
quitting
15
to your
years.
good
I'm
health.
15 years clean. So
Well, cheers to you, man. That's a tough
thank
thing.
you.
That's a tough thing to overcome.
And
And
yeah, I think what made me quit is the fact that I came home and I passed out in my recliner and I missed the Rocky Marathon.
oh
That really
no.
upset me. Yeah, I know. Also, just a quick update. There's about 4 minutes left on Instagram, folks. So if you want to head over to Twitch or to YouTube, you can continue the conversation.
Thank you for doing
I've
that
seen
for
this
me.
show before.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you for being a guest. And this
No
is
problem.
awesome. And I'm so sad that you missed the Rocky Marathon because that was always the week that I would watch.
I just watched it the next day, so it was okay.
Yeah. There's so much so much training. There's so much training that so much of this, a lot of this, a lot of running on the beach.
You know what though? Those movies, especially the first one, are a testament to getting things done no matter what. Because they didn't
Yes.
want Stallone to play Rocky, they wanted to get like Jimmy Caan or Ryan O'Neal or somebody like that, and they were ready to pay him $360,000 for the script and tell him to go away. But he fought for
Right.
it. And if anybody knows anything about filmmaking, they said, "Well, we're going to give you 900,000 to make this movie all in, and you have 30 days to make it."
Yeah.
And
That's true. That's true.
they got it done in 28. So
It's an amazing movie. You and I are both big fans of Stallone, I'm sure.
yep.
And Stallone, just stuff like that is always inspiring. Not only is that first Rocky in particular like a testament to overcoming and actually achieving. It's just really that was really like Stallone's life was trying to get that movie made. So it's kind of a meta movie.
Oh, very, yeah. And
Ever
one
since
of the
then,
great things is you remember the sequence where he picks up the bum and brings him into the bar in the first Rocky? Do
yes.
you know who that bum was?
Who was he?
Lloyd Kaufman of Troma Films. Because
Really?
John Avildsen needed somebody to shoot cheap in Philly because they didn't have the funds to film like the outdoor stuff in Philly. So Lloyd Kaufman got a crew together and they would work non-union to get the stuff done. And on the last day when they finished the last little bit of filming, they got shut down. So that was it was pretty funny.
That is that's an amazing bit of info. Thank you for that,
Now when
Ron.
you watch Rocky, you're gonna be like, hey, that's Lloyd Kaufman.
And I'm gonna think of the Toxic Avenger and all of those. I have Greg just gave me a tip on how to block these bots. Let's see. Let's see.
Have me keep
How
telling
do
stories so they get bored.
right, Ron, keep talking. Tell them about the bums
Well,
and.
yes.
Well, I always find it funny that Frank Stallone is singing the "Take It Back," do 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 do. He's got his little doo-wop group on the street. I always like that Sylvester Stallone hooks up his friends and his brother. He gives his brother a song on every soundtrack, even though, speaking of mediocre films, Greg will be a guest on tomorrow at noon. Guys,
What a
if you are
segue.
if you're on
Speaking of
Twitch,
bums,
check. Listen, Frank Stallone, talented singer, not so much on the songwriting front. I'm critical. I'm very critical of that.
I would love to hear
Let's
Frank
see.
Stallone sing "It's Glasses Cleaning Time," though.
How does that go?
Well, you
It's
have to have
glasses
Greg.
clean.
Yeah, I can't do it. It's a Greg thing.
Greg, tomorrow we'll have to have you debut glasses cleaning song on the Aristotle Full Throttle program.
Yeah.
Thank you guys on Instagram. Oh, Instagram just shut down, but we're going to continue the conversation for a little while longer with our guest Ron Purtee, filmmaker and host as well. You're going to start to repost.
Jack of all trades, master of absolutely none.
You know, you can be a. That's fine. We like that. we invite that here. Greg, I'm going to have to take a second later and figure out how to do these bots because the technical side of my brain, I was telling Ron about this right before we started. Like, my brain shuts down entirely when I have to push
You're
buttons.
in complete entertainment mode right now.
Yeah, like if I could just let it fly during this time. But thank you, Greg, for that tip. I will actually change format of my brain and figure that out later.
Speaking of entertaining, I'm going to entertain the post office when we're done here with a few 4-letter words because
What happened?
not this last Friday, but the Friday before, I ordered a copy of the Criterion version of The Kid by Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, The Kid.
Yes.
That is classic. Yeah, we were talking about that on Greg's show.
Yeah, it was supposed to come like last week, and it says delivery date unknown. So basically, what's going on is it's sitting at the post office. So if they're not going to deliver it, I'm just going to go get it, and I'm going to read them the riot act. I'm going to be like, look, I understand this isn't your fault. I understand that the big bloated orange is the reason for all this, but give me a damn movie. I want to watch Charlie Chaplin in a dramedy.
What if they're all sitting around watching it, Ron? You go in there and it's just playing on the screen, and they're like, "Oh, we've had this copy lying around. We're going to give it to you, but it's just such a damn good movie."
At that point, I would be reenacting that scene from Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the hook. So, like, well, if you're going to continue to watch it, you're going to do it with a hook in your spine. That's just, that's just, I'm just being playful.
Don't be disgruntled.
I'd be in a different place.
That's right. That is the environment for that. So if you guys have any questions or comments, we'd like to see what you guys think. What are your favorite films out there?
What's that? My favorite films?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, what are your favorite films? We talked about your first impressions of films and the ones that really set you in motion for making movies of your own. What are some of your favorite films in recent years?
The original Dawn of the Dead is my all-time favorite film from 1978. I see it more as satire than horror because the blood looks like melted crayons. The Great Dictator is one of my favorites.
The Great Dictator.
Yeah, the Charlie Chaplin movie. I have an old-time. It's a reprint, but it's an old-time Great Dictator poster, and it's got this drawing of who I think is probably one of his most gorgeous co-stars, Paulette Goddard. She's on there, and it's like, damn, you're dead, but I'm lonely. What else? True Romance. I'm a big fan of that movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, I think that that is as close to a perfect film as you can get.
It really
Princess
is.
Bride.
Princess Bride is great. I love True Romance. It's might be my favorite Gary Oldman performance, in that if you ever notice about Gary Oldman, he is always using a different accent no matter what the role. He will always, if he plays a character from Chicago, he'll have a very specific area of Chicago that he'll emulate in his accents. Even if he's playing someone from England, he'll be in every character he plays will have a different area. And I kind of noticed that about him, and it's remarkable. And when he plays that dude in True Romance, I'm just like, how the heck is this the same guy who played Winston Churchill?
Right. Every time, my favorite line in True Romance is when Christian Slater shows up at Gary Oldman's establishment, and he's like, "What is this, White Boy Day?" I'm like, that. I just die every time I hear him deliver that line. And another fun fact is that I saw Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 from like a crack in my door when my mom and her boyfriend were watching it back in the day. And I was like, who is this girl? She's so cute, this little blonde girl. And come to find out, it was Patricia Arquette. And so that has filled my lifelong crush with Patricia Arquette. I always refer to her as my next ex-wife. But
and your dad's current.
And my dad's current, yeah, exactly. My dad's just lining up with me. He's like, all right, let's line forms to the left. No, next. Yeah, next. So that's, and if anybody, like, I'm starting to branch more back into comedy now when it comes to creating things in horror. But I recently watched a documentary on Buster Keaton from the Cameraman Criterion release,
Yeah.
and it's amazing how he used to write for the Marx Brothers and for Laurel and Hardy and all these people, and he was so memorable. Whereas when he would do
Right.
stuff, it would be like it'd take all day to come up with a bit, and get
Yeah.
it perfect. And I can see where he's coming from, and how the less you say in a scene and the more you do physical actions, the better it comes off. Like there's a sequence
Hmm.
in The Passionate Plumber where he is like this woman's like yelling at him to leave, and he's like, "Don't you want coffee?" And he just keeps filling the cup with like sugar, and then he has to take the sugar out with his hand, and it's just he doesn't say really much of anything, but it's just watching him do it is so funny.
There's so many incredible physical comedians, like Lucille Ball too. When she would do all of those little bits in her show, I Love Lucy, it was just kind of just incredible how you've got showing more. Show me, don't tell me is always the
Oh
great
yeah,
way
for
for
sure.
some
And
of
then
these
I
great
I think
artists.
it's funny that Keaton wanted to go into talkies before Chaplin did.
Is that right?
Yeah, because Chaplin felt if the tramp opened his mouth, he would lose all of his appeal.
That makes sense. Though the Chaplin does that great performance as Hitler.
Yeah,
That one,
yeah. We'll call him Hitler. We'll call him
yeah,
Hitler.
we'll call him Hitler.
Yeah,
Hitlerish.
yeah.
So Condyland says, I was on Ron's Twitter page. He's followed by Barack Obama. Well, congratulations
Thank you.
on
I'm
that, Ron.
also I'm also followed by the old dead singer of Guar, but that doesn't do me any good because he's dead.
I'll have you know, Ghostbusters, official account, follows my Twitter, which is the most proud follow that I have, the
I
official Ghostbusters account.
the couple of coolest things that ever happened to me on Twitter is Joe Bob Briggs follows me, and we actually spoke in DM once, which is even weirder because I don't think he knows how to work a DM, but he felt compelled to respond to me about something, and then I remember when Becoming Undead 2, which is like probably my biggest movie, even though it was the smallest to make. It got nominated for a Rondo Hatton Award and all these other things. And when I made that, it was a couple years later, and Joe Carnahan, the guy who did The Gray and the A-Team movie and stuff like,
Yeah.
and Smoke Aces and stuff, he's like, he must have been bored one day on online. He goes, "Send me your stuff if you got stuff." I'm like, "Okay." So I sent him Becoming Undead 2. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. And then I get a tweet back from him, and he says, "If you're trying to be the Bergman of zombie movies, you're well on your way." I'm like, "Holy
Hmm.
crap!" Like, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
granted, I mean, nothing has been close to anything Bergman-esque. I mean, Bergman with handguns, I guess, but and Liam Neeson fighting wolves. But
That's
yeah,
amazing. My here's a comment about Paulette Goddard. My mom just commented this. Paul used to drive Paulette Goddard around the Chaplin estate. So now my mom. Here's an interesting piece of trivia about my family. My mom's first
higher yourself,
husband,
mom.
Ron Cicelo, uh, which I guess she heard, and then I just doubled down. He went to school with Chaplin's kids. So my mom, her very first husband was a man by the name of Paul Whiteman, who was the son, Paul Whiteman Jr., who was the son of Paul Whiteman. And if you knew who Paul Whiteman was, he was referred to as the King of Jazz, and he conducted the George Gershwin Orchestra. So unfortunately, my mom was widowed by Paul. He died, unfortunately. But Paul Whiteman Jr., her first husband, used to drive Paulette Goddard around the Chaplin estate. So that's
Oh
pretty neat, huh?
man, that is very cool. That is so. And see, I was what was I watching the other day? And oh no, I was watching Stallone on Howard Stern talking about like how the original cut of First Blood was 3 hours long, and the
Wow.
character John Rambo had all this pithy dialogue, and he's like, "How about we go in there? We just cut all of my dialogue except for that last speech, and it trimmed the movie down to 90 minutes." And
Yeah.
yeah, so and he's talking about this stuff, and he mentioned United Artists. And a lot of people
Yes.
don't know that was
Mary
founded by
Pickford and
Mary
Chaplin.
Pickford, Chaplin, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. And
Yep.
people don't seem to realize that. So if it wasn't for, see, that's the thing is people don't understand that a lot of the stuff that Keaton made and Chaplin made were all indies. So indie film has, and then you got Romero doing his indie stuff. Um, because I don't know the last time he was given money by a big studio. Oh, for Land of the Dead.
Land of
Um,
the Dead. Yeah.
yeah, that was like the only real big corporate thing that he ever did. Or no, I think he did with Steven. He did Creep Show. That was kind of a big thing. And then like The Dark Half and Monkey
Oh, the
Shines.
Dark Half.
Yeah,
Yes. Those
stuff
are
like that.
Stephen King.
Yeah, but Romero
Um,
directed him.
Indeed he did. Stephen King. It's just so many good movies have come from Stephen King novels, which is great. And I think this should be the last little bit of the show because I would be remiss because you mentioned your fandom for Superman.
Yes.
Now Comic-Con obviously was, I guess, last weekend. Sort of
I think they
digital
extended it the whole week, but yeah, because of
Okay,
the.
so it's all we've got to do it like remotely, but Zack Snyder is
Ugh.
doing the Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and there's been some footage released of Superman
In his
wearing a
black
black suit. Yeah. Now I
Okay.
want your thoughts on this.
Oh, you're gonna get them because you said the magic words that piss me off. There are two names that enrage me. Enrage
Hmm.
me. One's
Yeah.
Eli Roth because I do not like Eli Roth. I find him, yeah. What
Hostile.
do you? Yeah, I don't
The
like
bear.
those. Yeah, they're not. Anyway, and then Zack Snyder is the other, and I'll explain why. Because Zack Snyder is here in Wisconsin. He's from a town called Sheboygan, which I guess makes sense because Sheboygan is the Florida of Wisconsin. And this man makes the Dawn of the Dead remake. Okay, and now can I curse like use the F bomb on here? Is that okay?
I do not censor anything my
Okay.
guests say,
Okay.
so you're allowed to
Well,
say
okay.
whatever you
So
like.
when I didn't know much about Snyder except for like 300, I thought 300 was great. So I went to go see the Dawn of the Dead remake here in Racine, okay? And I'm sitting in the theater. It's not very packed. There's a sequence. Have you seen the Dawn remake?
I have not.
Okay, well, there's a sequence
I'm
where she's driving down this road, and there's this huge drone shot, or however they shot it then, where you see the ground, and you see a car coming this way, and I'm knocking over my microphone. You see a car coming this way, and it hits the gas pumps, and they explode, and the helicopter from the original Dawn flies by. And on the radio, it says, if you do not go to Miller Park, because, it's whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. Then the radio announcer says, and if you're in Racine, which is where we were at the time watching this film in the theater, we have no further information for you. So I let out the loudest decree I've ever decreed, and I said, oh, great, we're fucked. And the entire audience started laughing, and then the rest of the movie went downhill. That's the difference between the remake and the original.
right.
The original, the first 10 minutes is action packed, like, holy crap, this is mind numbingly, amazing. And then they get to the mall and everything slows down. Whereas in the
Yeah.
original, it's a little boring in the beginning, but the minute they get to the mall, everything picks up, and it keeps you for the rest of the 2 hours running time or 2.5 hour running time of the original, depending on which cut. There's like 6 of them, and so that pissed me off. Then, as you go through the movie, you see that there is a bucket of chicken from KFC on a table, right? That's fine. Whatever, product placement. I get it. You got to
Yeah.
make money. That's fine.
The
The
colonel.
problem is that the bucket of chicken is written in French because they shot in Vancouver.
Ah.
It's like you should have seen this. You know what I mean? And then the third thing,
Le
now,
KFC.
yeah, look, le finger looking good. Uh, so then the ending of the movie, they go into spoiler alert. They go to an island in Lake Michigan. First off, I'm not even sure there is islands in Lake Michigan. If there is, that's fine. But I don't think they have
There's
palm
no way
trees.
of knowing.
Well, I mean, there is,
No.
but okay. But no, they have palm trees. How would a Midwestern lake have palm trees on an island? I mean, let's
That's
be
very
real
true.
here. And then
Yeah.
let's get into Superman. Let's get into Superman for a second. Zack Snyder hates that character. When you watch Man of Steel,
He does.
yes,
He
does not
does.
like Superman. He does not.
I
Henry
totally agree
Cavill
with
is
you.
fine. Henry Cavill is fine as Superman. I have no problems with
I
him.
like him as Superman, yeah.
But there's no, the only, and this is a lot of people are going to disagree with me. The only time Superman was right in any of these movies is when Joss Whedon took over.
Right, when he shows up to fight Steppenwolf in
Yes,
Justice League, it's just from that point on, and maybe just the intro where they have the little cell phone footage of Superman. Those were the only Supermans that I've seen in the last 10 years. That was the only representation, accurate
exactly.
representation of Superman. And I totally agree with you about Zack Snyder not liking the character. I was watching part of his interview from the panel on Comic-Con or the Zoom chat he was having. And I was like thinking, this is great. Zack finally gets to realize his vision. Good for him. I'm so glad that he gets to kind of work on this now and bring it to fruition the way that he envisioned it. And then he starts talking about the character Superman. And he's
Oh,
like,
I can't wait to hear this.
he was just like, and I don't want him to be like that Boy Scout. I don't
He
like that. And
is.
I'm like, Zach, that's who Superman is. That's why he is super. He's like literally the Ubermensch. He is the guy who is the Boy Scout. Because if you have the Boy Scout, then when you have Batman, who is the dude who will do what needs to be done, there's that. You've got the gray character of Batman, but you've got the the beacon of light that is Superman that
You
you
can't
can
have light
measure
without the
all
dark.
other characters against.
Yeah, you can't
Say
have
that
light
again?
without the dark. You can't have light without the
Right.
dark, and that's exactly. And then
Exactly.
the thing is that when it comes to the Justice League movie, I didn't hate. A lot of people hated it. They loved Batman v Superman. They loved Man of Steel. I hated those movies, but I kind of liked Justice League because apparently Cyborg was a super dark character in this movie. Remember,
Yeah.
he was really dark. Apparently, in
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's
Not
version,
only
he's
is he a
darker.
black guy, but he's
Well,
darker.
that too, but yeah, yeah. No, and apparently he's even more morose and depressing in Zack Snyder's version.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he seemed like when I watched the Justice League, I felt as though he was kind of a lot just felt like he was cut out of the movie or whatever, or
Yeah.
replaced and minimized. So I'd be interested in seeing the darker version of Cyborg, but
Just watch it. Watch
also
it with a mop and a razor blade, so you can clean up the blood after you slit your
right.
wrists. I mean,
That's
that's
very true.
it's.
Try
But
not
I
to
mean,
leave any handprints on sliding doors around
yeah,
here.
exactly. Because then my dad's 18th wife will get upset. But what's really weird is like everybody's like, oh well, Superman's not a very good character because you can't hurt him. Well, yes, you can
Yeah.
hurt him because his biggest weakness is his heart, and he cares too much.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
thing.
What you do is you give Superman problems that seemingly cannot be solved, and then he uses his extraordinary powers to somehow overcome that problem, which I've always found the whole point to Superman. Every time I've only watched Man of Steel maybe twice. And when the city is coming down, when Metropolis is just being pulverized, when I was sitting in the theater, I was like, okay, cool. So when is Superman gonna save everybody? And he's just they're just
When is Superman going to take the fight out of Metropolis?
yes. When is he gonna protect the city that he loves and save as many humans as possible? He seemed to have no concern about what the destruction that they were causing just by simply punching each other, Zod and Superman punching each other.
That's why you go back and you watch Superman 2 and you see how Superman's supposed to be when he fights inside Metropolis. He's
The
protecting
people.
the people
Yeah.
while he's laying a beating on Zod, Ursa, and Nan.
Yeah.
Because that's how he
That's
is.
a
How he
great
rolls.
That's the turning point in the fight when Zod's like, oh, when Terrence Stamps Zod is looking down and he's like, oh,
So he
Superman
cares about
seems
these
to
people. Yep.
care. But okay, now we've got a tactical advantage now. Now look, we could just start like indiscriminately hurting people and then distract this guy.
And not
from
only
trying to
that, but
punch us.
there's you can see in Superman 2 especially that Superman is nothing but love coursing through his veins. He gave up his powers to be with Lois.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
That's
that,
his
and
heart.
then yeah, exactly. That's his biggest weakness. But good luck getting through his skin with a bullet. But another thing is that when it comes to Superman, I forget what issue it's in, but there's an issue, I think it's Action Comics, where this girl is sitting on a ledge and she's going to kill herself, And he doesn't grab her off the ledge or do anything like that. He talks to her for a good like 4 or 5 pages about, how she matters and all this other kind of stuff. And that was
Yeah.
how he saved the day. Because people think, oh well, he's just a big musclehead. You got to remember, his brain is being powered by the sun like the rest of him. So he might be as smart as Batman at this point,
Yeah.
or even Mr. Terrific, who's
Right.
exceptionally intelligent. I'm such a
But that's
fucking nerd, but
well, that was always the best part about, like, say, Lex Luthor, is that Lex Luthor had no heart, essentially, very, very cold-hearted, and better like at figuring out ways to create a conundrum for Superman, and that was always what I enjoyed about their rivalry, is that Lex Luthor could create a seemingly impossible conundrum for Superman to solve, and then Superman would creatively figure out how to beat it. And that's what we lack in Zack Snyder's imagination of Superman,
he
which is sad.
Zack Snyder turned Superman into a Christ-like figure, and that's not who he is. Granted,
Yeah.
he would sacrifice himself to save the planet if need be, but it's like, I don't know how deep into comics you go, but do you remember Final Night? The Sun Eater came and ate the sun, and Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, was Parallax at the time, and Superman was going to um, fly into the sun to relight it. They had some kind of device or whatever, and one of the Legionnaires, little punk ass kids with the rings that fly.
Mm-hmm.
He stole a ship and he was going to go do it because the world can't not have Superman. This is right before Superman became blue electricity.
Yes, and
Yeah, do you
and
remember that?
also red electricity.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was a failed experiment.
They split
And
him.
then all of a sudden, Hal Jordan shows up as Parallax, and he's like, "Look, I know how important rings are," because he was Green Lantern, and he relights the sun. And the reason that he relit the sun using all the energy inside of him, that's what caused Superman to turn to blue and red and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's like it's all about heroes sacrificing themselves and whether or not they're willing to go to that level. If you haven't seen the
Yes.
Justice League Dark Apocalypse War cartoon movie, holy crap, it's so good. A lot of cursing, a lot of blood, and you get to see John Constantine take on Darkseid.
Well, we get to see Darkseid in Zack Snyder's version. I'm definitely gonna watch
Uh,
Zack Snyder's version. However, I probably will not like it because
I'm gonna
you're right.
watch it so I can complain.
Yeah, and we will definitely talk about that when that comes out next year. But I would love to have you on sooner than that. Thank you, Ron, for joining me today on Aristotle Full Throttle.
I had
You
a
guys
blast.
can follow Ron at Real Ron Purtee. He's on YouTube. He's on Instagram. He's on Twitter, and we we loved nerding it up with you today and talking about movies and talking about your life growing up in Wisconsin. And
Up and away.
and hope to have you on again soon.
I'd be an
Um,
honor.
well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And here, I'm going to leave off with this. My mom mentions that Paul Whiteman Jr., I guess, went to school with Charlie Chaplin's kids, and it turns out Chaplin was cheap. That's what
It
she
sounds
said.
about right. Sounds about right.
But yeah, there's complicated people like Chaplin, who was
All his
once the
exes
most.
and kids. How can he be cheap?
That's true. That's true. He was the most recognized human on the face of the planet at one point. More
Oh yeah.
recognizable than Christ, which is interesting.
Well, he's my
But
Jesus, so it's okay.
I hope that you are able to secure your copy of The Kid from the post office today,
Oh,
Ron.
they're
And
gonna get one of these if they don't.
a knuckle
I'm
sandwich.
warning you, USPS. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. And tune in tomorrow when our guest will be the fabulous Greg Benson from Mediocre Films. Ron, you're the best. Don't go changing. And
Well, I might change
rock
my
on.
shirt. I'm sweating a little bit, but I won't change who I.
Indeed. Maybe change your shirt from time to
Yes.
time, but don't change
Shower
yourself.
once in a while. Yeah.
I'm Aristotle, full throttle, you bro in the know with the fro, and I'll see you tomorrow.